Happy Saturday, everybody! Hey, Rage. Hey, Rube. Hey, Bored. I haven't been around for 2 weeks and people are still here. That's amazing! I love you guys. Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy what we do. We were just enjoying that awesome Star Wars video of the faceplant stormtrooper, which is just...
He faceplanted thoroughly.
I've never seen somebody faceplant quite that well. So we sort of remember what we were doing? Kind of.
Remember is a strong word.
I actually do remember all the rules that we talked about, though, just because I have a rule mind, and after I talk about them once, it's just like, steal, trap. I don't know why. Always been like that with game rules. I remember...
It is very beneficial.
At our last work, when we used to work together, we were on a Friday, we were playing a game, and they pulled out this complicated game where everyone's trying to figure it out, and I just picked up the rules in like 5 minutes, put it down, like, okay, let's play. And somebody was like, did you just like read that and remember it all? I was like, no, they're just rules. Like, that's
play a lot of games.
I guess so. And we just literally just sat down and started playing it, and everyone's like, oh, what do we do? Okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you do this, and that's how you play. And everyone's like, how do you know all this already?
A lot of games.
Yeah.
Lot of games.
It's really easy to remember game rules when you can relate them to things you already know. That's how brains work. If you can make relations between information, really good at recall. Links those neurons together. The more often those thoughts lead to each other, the more physical your neurons will actually wire together to make that memory that much more solid. So I guess because I obsess and think about games all the time, it just reinforces those pathways instantly. It's just, okay, you've got this. Let's go. Because I do think about this all the time. Like between panels and stuff, I'm like, oh, this would be good. Oh, that would be good. So.
And I mean, makes sense, right? The more you do something, the better you get at it.
I randomly remind you of a card game called Flux. What about me reminds you of it? Does the card game have a beard?
Potentially.
Oh, hey! Before we get rolling too much, just the instructions. Okay, I gotcha. Before we get rolling too much, I do want to say that I'm going to have a little bit of a brainstorm session tomorrow as well.
Ooh.
We're going to be doing some stream brainstormings because we just got access to follower emotes.
Ah, yes. That is true.
So we have 5 extra follower spots for emotes. So we get all sorts of new emotes to add. So we got to figure out what we want, what we don't want, what's for followers, what's for members. And I definitely want other people's opinions on that. And at the same time, I have been talking to an animator who I believe I've decided on when she has the bandwidth to do the background screen for this, the intro screen, the outro screen, the be right back screen, and all the alerts. So we can get them all custom hand animated and looking exactly how we want them with all professional assets. And I want all of the alerts to include my mascots. So it's not going to be cheap. And I wouldn't mind having, Rage and Pseudo worked into some of the panel stuff, having you guys in the intro for the panel. Maybe a specific panel intro might be cool. Do you guys in the same style as me, so it's a bunch of cartoons with some cartoon animals running around. It sounds like fun. Let's throw some money into that.
Adorable.
Yeah, I like adorable. So we'll work on that tomorrow. But for now, I think we need to focus on character creation before combat. Or do you want to go right into combat? I think we have an understanding. We have assigned plus buy is what we've decided. So you'll have some base points to give a structure to your character, then some random buy points that you can put anywhere to sort of fine-tune your character. I think that's enough understanding.
I really like that we managed to avoid a class system. Like just giving people that additional level of flexibility is really nice.
No direct classes, but there is a direct unlock to enable magic. Because it's so powerful and expensive. So there is definitely room as we continue for us to maybe add in some more pieces. Things to go from. Will characters be unique with perks based on who you choose, or is their abilities based on what you choose?
The abilities are based on what stats and what skills you spend on.
Let's get that open. Come here, mouse. Whip PvP skills. There you go.
You brought up the cost to unlock magic, and I think it would be interesting to have a feats-esque system where you could like take something, you have your feat that you have to take in order to be magic attuned, and then you have, other feats that you can take that would, be, ambidextrous or something, and then you could wield 2 firearms and be like, pow, 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 pow.
So we definitely wanted the perk flaw system. I think
Yes.
I think that replaces feats. Feats turn into perks at that point.
Yes.
So that is definitely, I agree, where we would enable the magic as a perk. And we can definitely throw more stuff in there. Perk, flaw ideas, phobias, ambidexterity. Hey, I spelt it right.
Wow. I always misspelled that word.
I'm actually decent at spelling sometimes. Sometimes. Oh, hey, I'm going to need some of that in a bit. Let me turn that on. Good. Oh, yeah, phobias, dexterity, magic, advanced weapons, question mark, disabilities, question mark. I'm throwing question marks next to stuff that we're not sure if it's going to be in there or not. This is ideas.
What could be interesting is having maintenance be a thing. Like you would need to maintain your weapons.
We don't have any items yet. We have an untitled P&P rules, though. Let's just throw it in there.
Yeah, we don't have any sort of stuff for that, but like a perk for being better at maintenance. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it, but the problem is bringing in maintenance on the flip side means item durability, and we both know how we feel about item durability.
Yeah, item durability can be decidedly unfun, but there are also ways to make it.
Is this coming from all your Tarkov time lately?
Maybe a little bit. But but I was just thinking, like, if you are a firearm or ranged weapon user of some sort, then you will need to be able to maintain those wanged weapons.
Yeah, the wanged weapons are important.
Wanged weapons need to be maintained. Bowstrings, making sure that the flexibility on the bow still works. If you've got a compound bow, you got to make sure all the pulleys are still going. Maintain your firearms.
I mean, even your melee weapons need maintenance. They need polishing. They need oiling. They can get chipped. They can get rusty. They need sharpening.
I think the numbers that we're working with are too small to have it actually affect anything, though.
Yep.
So I don't think it'll actually go anywhere, but it might be a neat idea to play around with.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that happens, and it's something to keep in the back of our minds. Just because we don't like an idea doesn't mean that at some point we're not going to go, oh, this fucking fits! So, it's... Oh. Okay.
No, shut arm.
Yeah, I gotta not flail it around like that. I gotta be less into it, and I don't know if I can do that.
Turns out when you make your hobby your stream, you get pretty excited about it.
I'm slightly invested in this. And for those that are new to this isn't our first pen and paper system, or our second, or our third, or our fourth. We've done this a couple times.
I think it may actually be my fourth, unless we count different versions of D&D.
I'm only talking about systems I've made.
Oh yeah. Then it is definitely my third.
Okay, cool.
This is the third one that I've made.
Right on. This is the... No, maybe it is the fourth I've made. Life. Made the Matrix RPG, which was... Played that a lot, and we enjoyed that.
It's a neat setting. You can do a lot with it.
I used a 7th stat that was your like mental aptitude, your understanding of the Matrix, that would multiply your other stats when you're in the Matrix. Multiplies your physical stats.
Makes sense.
When you jack in, you can do all those super crazy, superhuman things. It was a lot of fun. Then I did... Oh, the Norse one, which is what this system was sort of taken off of and split off of, and has become completely different. Nothing like it.
It's like, hey, I've got some ideas, and then we just kind of run with it, and suddenly it's unrecognizable.
That was the idea. And that one was cool. It used the D20 stats and then had mage and cleric and actual classes, but used your proficiency in the weapon to gauge the limit of your weapon skills, and had special skills for each weapon, for warrior and thief and stuff like that. So as you gain more proficiency in the weapon, you can also gain more skills with the weapon and do special stuff in combat with it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. This is stats. This is character creation, which involves stats. But stats have been decided, I believe.
Yes, I believe so. I think we went with the 8 stat system.
Where'd they go? There. Not everything is in the right spot. Oh no, this is magic.
No.
But that's still our stats. The skill structure. Right, we were working on this too. This needs a lot more work still.
I feel like this got rolled back again. Either that or it's in a different dock.
That's unfortunate.
Because I remember this state of this dock. And then we actually like split up our magic schools into which stats they're associated with. And I think it was 2112.
Yeah, I remember that. Maybe that's combat?
Maybe?
ENP skills?
Organization is hard.
It is. Yeah, here we have Crud Force, Crud. Okay, this is where all the Crud stuff was done. It's under combat system, which we should probably break out into magic.
Yes.
Yeah, this is...
we started combat and then just created a magic system instead.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it went. But, you know, magic's a huge part of combat, and we wanted the magic to be core in the combat system. And I'm happy we did, because this magic system is so cool. I look forward to its development more. Okay. Focus. It is now 4:20, and we've got to start.
Focusing doesn't generally happen around this time, but
actually, you know what? Honestly, the dab helps the focus immensely. It just makes me tunnel vision and like work on something. Whereas otherwise it's, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that.
But what about the other thing?
I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. And my brain just moves at 10 miles an hour to the point where, like, by the time I've started working on something that I had an idea to work on, I've had 5 other ideas since then that I want to work on. And it's really hard to just do something. That's why I smoke a lot, because every time I do, it slows my mind down to working speed, and then it goes, I'm going to work on this, and it just gets that done.
Yeah, I have the other side of the ADD spectrum of hyperfocus, which can also be very detrimental, because I'll just go like 20 hours doing something and forget to eat.
I do that too. But when I'm
eating is pretty important.
You know, when I'm stimulated and interested, it's just a million ideas a minute, and I want to do all of them. And there aren't that many hours in a day.
True fact.
It's why I still have a half-built SNES Pi.
You got a really nice, like, 3D printed case for that, didn't you?
No, I got a classic SNES case, actual one, and de-yellowed it and cleaned it all up so it's mint, and then I printed a back block that all the HDMI and everything plugs into, so it all syncs up nice and looks like it's made for the system. But it's actually in a true original SNES case, and I hunted and hunted and hunted and hunted for a great shape case with a dead board so I didn't ruin an SNES.
Because ruining an SNES in these days, that's paddling. These things are not easy to find in good shape.
All right, Rube, what are we doing? Are we flushing out magic? Same with board. Are we flushing out magic? Are we working on combat? Or are we figuring out character creation? Give us a starting point. And if we can't start there after we start there, then we'll go to what we need to do. But we need some guidance. We need somebody to be like, hey, combat.
Combat.
What we're on right now. Okay, so we've got all the magic mostly figured out. What do we need to figure out for combat? Still needed. Absolutely. That's how we ended up in character creation. Like, oh, we need this. How do we do this? Let's go figure it out. That's the hardest part of game design, is where to start. Because everything links to everything.
It turns out it's all complex, interconnected structures and always has been. So what have we got? We've got our magic system sort of like roughed out. We haven't really touched on any other sort of combat other than like the idea of having opposed roles and how they work. Ooh, counters. There's an interesting idea.
There's no such thing as a dot mage. Our mages aren't like anything you've ever experienced before, Rube.
They are freeform, is how I would describe them. Which is interesting to me, because it's like magic is always interpreted as like this arcane knowledge, very rigid thing. But there have been instances of it also being like very freeform, very powerful, very focused on creativity. Your imagination is what stops you from being able to do more. And I think that we sort of captured that within the constraints of an RPG system that is simpler than vampire thing.
That's true. We have made it simpler than vampire. You need to do like a few days of homework to understand the magical spheres in vampire enough to properly use them. However, once you've learned them and used them in vampire, you go, I never wanted to use a different magic system ever again.
And with good reason.
Yes, Rube, it's imagination. You have control over the world around you, and what you do is limited only by your imagination. Try to open end melee ranged. That's what I want to do today. Let's tackle this one.
Ooh, so it's not just like a here's some numbers, they interact with your numbers sort of deal. Ooh. Sort of, Rubino? Sort of? Sort of.
You can create whatever you can imagine as long as you have the magical power to create it.
And it fits within the schools of magic that you are attuned with, and
well, that's the thing. Like, it's as long as you have the power. Like, if you have enough power in all of the schools involved to do what you're thinking, then you can do it. I'm not a moderator, Miss Bunny. Sorry, I quit my moderator role. I'm not the person to come to with stuff like that. This is why I quit. You RP that power. Yeah, so here's how it works in our system. As we're thinking, this might help us remember and figure it out. So we've got 4 or 8 magics. 6. We've got 6. That's where we stopped. Are you familiar with the term crud, Rube? I guess not everybody's going to be. If you're watching this video and you don't know crud is programmer speak for all of your mandatory state management stuff. Create, read, update, destroy. I always forget R.
Yeah, so there you go. There's your definition of the term. Create, read, update, destroy is the sort of the 4 interactions that you can have with a piece of data. We've added another layer to that because everything else works on 5s. So we added the ability to sense that school of thing.
Your brain just fucked itself on that last second. Okay. CRUD is the basic management of something. All the things you can do to it. We've added a 5th one. So here is the 5 things you can do with magic for each of these things. In this order. You can sense force, then you can read force, and that would be to get all the properties, like you're a walking Geiger counter. Okay? Like that. That kind of level.
Idea for a energy mage.
See? It's fun, isn't it? You can read it. Then when you get to level 3 magic power in it, you can update it. So you can change it to something else.
Or you could adjust its magnitude.
Yep. But there has to be something there for you to work with. Then at 4, it doesn't even need to be there to work with anymore. You can just create force. That sounds fun. I want to be a martial artist with level 4 force.
The ultimate gish.
The best 1-inch punch that has ever been performed.
Probably. That would not surprise me. I feel like this system is cast time heavy based on the imagination. Not necessarily. It's more of you, if you can think it, you can do it, but there's going to be a consequence.
Well, there's also work to be done, right? So the more levels of the more spheres all put together is going to make more and more and more work for the work total. Mm-hmm. And then that means it's going to take you more and more and more rounds in order to get that work done with your rolls. So inadvertently, we've created long cast times for big spells.
Kind of accidentally, but it works out.
But with the system, what it does is as you get better at magic, you reduce the cast time. I've never seen a system like that, and that's awesome. Also, a hefty roll can shrink your cast time. And all of a sudden, you could just like snap that spell out of nowhere and be like, oh, yes. I love this system. I love this system.
Yeah, for Magic at least, it has come out really good. I'm very interested in seeing how far we can get melee and ranged combat, or I should say physical combat,
Yeah.
excuse me, sort of pushed into that same vein.
Okay. It was nice to review the magic system, because now I can explain that since we've made magic so fucking fun, I don't want melee to be I attack.
Yeah, that's not stimulating.
Nobody wants that. And honestly, in classic D&D, even though there is an attack option, if you ever said I attack, you were on the losing end of that turn. You should describe your attack. So let's make them describe their attack in some way. Let's make the melee be creative, but limit their ability to be creative based on their skill.
So the idea of pulling creativity into melee, the first thing I think
physical
of...
combat. Physical combat. The ranged is going to be
physical
actually...
combat.
The ranged is going to be easier to do because we can...
Well, you can just call your shot, like...
Well,
there you go.
And
You
then as
immediately
you get
got a leg
higher,
up.
as you get higher and higher and higher up, you can do, like bounced shots and stuff like that, and maybe multi-bounced shots when you get higher, and you're looking forward to that extra tier because then you can bounce it off 2 objects.
Or like bank into a target that you don't actually have line of sight on as a master. Like that would be nuts.
Yeah, as long as somebody's there to tell you it's there, to give you the vision that there's an enemy there, then you can do it. Or the ability to just put an arrow down a row around a corner.
Just like, I know there's a hallway there. I'm going to put this arrow down the left-hand side of the hall because there was a guy peeking around that corner. And you might get him.
Yeah, and you might find out that there's something down there.
Okay, ranged combat, immediately boss. How do we do this for melee?
Okay, Rube, here's the thing. Because of the combat system, anybody who runs up and attacks is going to be facing an enemy who has the same creativity in his responses that the players have in theirs. So the GM would innately be able to just punish him with the enemy by doing something creative and wrecking him.
So for melee combat specifically,
how do we feel about longer attacks? What should happen? How about this? What happens in melee if you don't meet the work total in your attack? Which means you don't deal damage.
Well, that would typically, like, if you don't match that opposed roll, that would typically mean that you were blocked or, your attack was ineffectual.
At what point is there a punishment for it?
I don't think there needs to be one. I think that would be on an ability on the enemy. Like the enemy would have the ability to like riposte.
I was just thinking that as defensive skills that would say, they'd give a plus to defense probably as the raw value, and say if the value is more than X on your defense.
Oh, Rube's got an idea.
Then you cause an effect. Do you understand what I'm saying?
If you have a feat, let's say you have the parry ability. You put some skill points into this. You have gained the ability to parry and riposte. If you are able to beat the value of the attack by delta, then you then can in return deal that delta.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I didn't think of that, but that's not a bad idea.
Well, I mean, like, I'm still working in that mindset of use all the numbers that you have.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
You have numbers, use them.
We want to make the one roll and work with the deltas back and forth for sure. I agree. You could take a more defensive, like a riposte. I agree, being offensive, but if it was something like, tumbling kind of idea, where you're actually working on a dodge, you could over a certain value, you could move a tile away and gain a bonus to defense for the rest of the round.
I think both would be a bit much, but I could see like getting a tile of movement if your delta is greater than 5 after succeeding on a defend.
Like you did a backflip as they tried to attack you and they completely whiffed.
Yeah, and then you get to just completely move out of that area. You are no longer under threat, or you can reposition to somewhere where you have an advantage.
Okay, we've got some ideas flowing. Let's read what Rube wrote here. I want my character to flip his ass all over the place and do ninja shit all over the place. Then he's upside down on the ceiling, just laughing at the boss man, and slashes his sword, and a huge wave of energy slashed the shit out of the boss.
So that is the Gish that I was talking about earlier. That is your Force Mage and what did we call Dex? Agility? Dex, Agility and Force Mage.
I'm trying to scroll it on the OBS output. It is precision.
Yeah, right. Precision has interesting implications. So it would probably be a combination of strength and precision and force. But you could totally do that.
Idea 1, speed-based melee class. Their role is to find a weakness to the enemy. So high dodge and high perception to determine the weakness of the enemy. That would be a high precision. And
that would
probably
be
a high strength.
Basically all precision, but enough strength to get high-level skills in movement.
Yeah. For the speed. That's what I was thinking, strength. Because we all ended up agreeing that speed comes from strength. Because speed comes from strong legs. It's just, you want to go fast, you need strong legs. And how do you go faster? You make your legs stronger. There's some skill to it. There is some precision to it as well. But
and like if we're talking about the ability to say lunge forward or something, you would definitely need a couple of ranks of precision, well, a couple of levels of precision and a couple of ranks in skills underneath it in order to be able to actually do that and land where you think you think you're going to land.
Yeah. Melee should have gap closers and exit abilities.
Absolutely. 100%.
Depends. Like a warrior doesn't have an exit ability.
But he would have a gap closer.
Yes. He would have a way to get in closer, or at least a way to defend himself while he gets in closer.
Yeah, and like there's all sorts of creativity that we can include there, especially since, you know, like we're saying, we want melee to be more open and we want physical combat to be more open-ended. Much like our magic system is. So you want to give that flexibility of like, you know, if you're at 3 strength and 2 precision, then you can take an ability or a skill rather that allows you to attack while moving, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the immediate response to most people when you talk about a magic system like this is, well, why would anyone be anything but a mage?
because they're not applying the open end to the melee system as well. Like people get, and this is, I'm guilty of this. I am 100% guilty of this. You get stuck in the mindset of D&D where it's just like, okay, I'm melee attacking. Let me roll some more dice. I'm just gonna stand here and keep doing damage. But if you can add more creativity, more dynamism, more movement into the combat, then things get really interesting. Because that's one of the things I always hate about D&D's melee combat is it disincentivizes movement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, they're not necessarily playing it wrong. If you are a melee combat focused character, you want to be standing right in front of your target the whole time. You don't want to move. Anytime you move is a decrease in damage. Like they disincentivize moving really hard.
and there should still be a way for a tank character to get in the face of the enemy and say, "You ain't going anywhere. You stay in here and fighting me." Because that's absolutely a meta, and that's how I play.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But I want there to be a reason to move in combat.
No, I agree. There has to be other types of melee that are way more fun. And for that guy just right in the face with the enemy, like, you're not going to decide to riposte his attack. You're going to
get an opportunity to riposte.
When you play tanks in D&D, you're scanning everything and stratting the shit out of the situation. Defensive melee are so close up, you can find the weakness, and that shit saves the party. Yep. Yep. And, like, here's an example. If you've got a spear and you're dealing with a skeleton, say I attack the skeleton, you're probably gonna miss.
or you'll at least have a disadvantage on your attack. Because, like, stabbing a skeleton, not very effective.
But if you say, I flip my spear around and smash down on his collarbone with the butt of my spear.
Or even the pointy end. Like, as long as you're using it as a club.
Yeah, I use it like a staff and swing right there. Then all of a sudden you're swinging at, like, an important part of the skeleton if your GM is actually thinking in a fairly weak spot and you're using it like a club. It's changed its damage type. That is what melee combat should be.
I mean, thinking man's melee combat.
Yeah. And that's what we want to try to create. So that when a person in the combat says, I attack, the GM goes, how? Which means the skills have to relate to what you can and can't do.
Yes. And to relate that back to our discussions on stats, let's try and tie parts of physical combat to stats.
Well, I think physical combat is tied to skills and skills are tied to stats, and I think that chain is sufficient. So let's tie them to skills, and let's start throwing out our core melee skills and figuring out what each rank would be able to do. And maybe something spawns out of that. It's a starting point.
And just for clarity, I did not mean that it needed to be linked directly to the skills, or directly to the stats, but you will require the stats to get the skills to do the thing.
Yeah, exactly. We are together on this. Okay. So parry. Yeah.
Let's take a look at parrying. Let's think about parrying. What would parrying be? It requires specifically parrying requires a great deal of precision and an amount of strength.
Well, let's just put it under precision. I think if we have to put the skill under a stat, because every type of magic is under one stat. If we start putting single skills under two stats, I think we're getting into the realms of different systems for different areas, and it becomes convoluted and hard to remember.
True. If I recall correctly, we were thinking fortitude would be mostly tied to our physical defenses. But when you're using a melee weapon, strength is also very important. Like, but as you know, because you've done martial arts before, and as some of the people in chat may know, it does require a great deal of physical strength to actually be able to parry a weapon. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. You have to hit their weapon harder than they're trying to hit you, and they're trying to kill you.
But where you hit it greatly reduces how much force is needed, even though you do still need force. And that narrow margin of difference for how much force is needed is pretty narrow at those high speeds. I would say precision is the more valuable skill than strength in a parry.
Yes. And I'm not arguing against that. I'm just saying that it does require both.
But it basically requires enough strength to be able to fight.
Which still leaves you at like 1 or 2 strength. Like 0 strength is still, you're pretty useless. Like you're a wet noodle.
But yeah, you're going to have at least 1 strength. I don't think we need a strength requirement on it. We can just put strength requirements on certain weapons.
Oh, that's an interesting way of doing it. Because what I was thinking is that you would unlock the ability to parry through precision. Mm-hmm. Like, absolutely. It would be the primary to be able to parry. But in order to unlock that skill through precision, you would need to have 2 strength. Something like that. Where it is directly tied to precision, but it still requires a bit of strength.
Well, here's the thing. If you parry a weapon with your bare hands, it doesn't really take any strength.
I disagree.
If done properly, it's really not. It's all about deflecting the motion of the weapon away from you.
Well, I suppose we did fight against different weapons. I didn't do a lot of pole arms. It's a lot of bladed weapons.
Well, you're not going to be great at deflecting those with bare hand, but the point of that would... The point of the deflection of a bladed weapon, even a 2-bladed weapon, would then be to be hitting it in the flat of the blade and deflecting the motion away from you as you step away, causing the swing to just basically
to whiff,
miss you. Yeah, that would be what I would call a parry there.
And then you can contra tempo.
Yeah, exactly. And that doesn't take strength. So really what it takes is strength to parry a weapon with a heavy weapon. So it takes strength to use a heavy weapon at that point, I would say. And we achieve that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the strength should probably be tied to an item. I was thinking about it, I think, a little too narrowly when only thinking about skills.
That happens. That's why there's 2 of us. Sometimes 3 of us. Pseudo's back in school, and school is more important than this.
True fact.
Sekiro, the pen and paper game. Yes.
Dude, if we can get anywhere close to the Sekiro experience, then this will be hands down the best melee combat in any pen and paper game.
That would be pretty awesome if we made something that just caught on. Everyone's like, dude, this is awesome. Yeah. We'll see where it goes. No one's tried to do anything like this, particularly as far as I know.
Not that got any traction anyway.
Yeah, not that got any sort of mainstream. So, okay. That's agreed on and out of the way and was a great little discussion. I'm glad we did that one. And it's recorded in case we forget it, which is nice. Now, parry as a first skill, if you just got it.
So I'm thinking parry
Now
should probably be like, and not necessarily riposte. I think riposte is a different ability, but I think parry should be fairly early on in precision.
Well, the way I'm thinking of it is you can take any of the skills once you take precision. You can just only get it to that level. Like parry is a precision skill, so if you have precision 1, you can get parry 1.
I keep trying to make this like... What am I trying to make this like? I'm trying to make it like some game that I played recently.
So
my brain's just like, no. You unlock the ability to do the thing once you have the requisite stats.
What would parry 1 look like?
Parry 1, I think, would be the ability to... Oh, this is probably too complicated.
It's a good place to start.
If your base roll beats the enemy's roll plus modifiers,
let's just call it delta.
If it beats the total, your base roll beats their total, then you completely deflect the attack, and anything that might have happened because of it is nullified. Because that makes it difficult to do, but still powerful.
Well, if your base roll beats what?
If your base roll beats their total.
Well, if your base roll beats their total, you're not going to take any damage anyway.
But there could still be, like, it could be a fire weapon, for instance. You get burned, take a little fire damage, or, something else. Maybe you're using a torch to defend yourself. I don't know. And it won't light on fire.
So nullify the attack. Yeah. All the attack effects. But that sounds strong.
Very situational.
No, it sounds kind of... I guess, yeah, it's not going to be... It is very, very situational at that point, isn't it? I like that, actually. Because parry 1 can't be strong. They have to start out weak. They can't just be like, hey, I've got parry 1, I win.
Yeah, we don't want this to be Assassin's Creed. So parry 2 then would be if your total beats their total? Completely nullifies any effects of the attack?
You see, my original thought was having... And I don't like this idea. So we're going to refer to it as delta. And delta, from now on, whenever we say delta, delta is the value difference of your roll to their roll. So it's how much you beat their roll by in the combat. Okay. The delta greater than, 20... you get a free hit, and delta greater than 10, you parry the attack and avoid all effects of it, kind of idea. And then as you go down, those values get smaller, so they're easier to do, which I hate the idea of, because it takes all the fun and freedom and uniform out of the parry and turns it into a stupid, silly, I've got this skill, let's see what my roll is, which is what we don't want.
Exactly.
That's why I was waiting to hear some things from you.
And I think that like my suggestion, needs some refining.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still a little bit too complicated.
It's closer than what I had, and a little better, but not quite there. I'd really like to find something like the Cruds.
Mm-hmm.
Where we can just apply it to each one, and it makes sense sort of uniformly as we go.
Which, as it turns out, is very tricky to do.
It is, and the fact that we pulled it off on the magic system is magic in and of itself. But that magic system is something special. I can't wait to play it. I want the same here. What about energy? Don't know what you mean. Don't get us started on the magic. We really want to focus on the physical combat. And we really liked the ideas that we had with we really liked the ideas that we had with the ranged right off the top of our head. That was a lot of good stuff. So we can use similar for the melee attacks, I'm sure. That would be kind of cool. The ability to deflect off of things, bounce off of things. You could bounce off of a person and hit another person to hit two different things with one attack. Stuff like that. Yeah.
So and just rip it out, that is exactly what we're talking about with creativity. What I'm thinking is like the ability to, like, something that I would want as a melee character would be the ability to carry through with an attack, like be able to swing through your opponent and, you know, maybe hit an additional target, sort of thing. Other things that I would want to be able to do, I would want to be able to target specific things. Like I would want to be able to disarm a target. I would want to be able to maim a target. I would want to be able to obviously parry their blade. I would want to...
You just described Crud's limb.
Yeah.
And that's super valuable in combat and melee.
Well, it's not so much crud. It's just read, update, destroy.
I guess there's no create. Yeah. It's runs.
I have like 17 arms.
Oh, Goro.
just becomes a walking ball of arms, so unwieldy that they can no longer fight.
Just starts rolling around, grabbing things and throwing them as it uses its hands to roll around. After a while,
it's Demon Souls.
After a while, it can just pull arms off and throw them at you, and then it's just this big ball of arms rolling at you. Okay. Okay, we got that out. I want to make this now.
Well, I mean, Life Mage.
Yep.
Right?
I'm already
Life
thinking
and Matter.
it. I'm already thinking it. I'm already thinking it. Can you imagine the legs just growing teeth and turning into a mouth and mashing at you with those big teeth legs?
God, that'd be terrifying. We made a horror game.
I always make a horror game. It never starts that way. It always ends that way. Okay, the defensive skills are really where we're having the trouble.
Maybe
are defensive skills anything more than bonuses to defense? Is there creativity in defense?
Yes. Parry is defensive.
Yep.
Riposte is not. Riposte is offensive. What else could be defensive? Dodging, repositioning.
Dodge and reposition, I would say, are the same.
Same sort of
thing.
idea, but not like different levels of it.
It's called
like you would need
the repositioning. Let's call
dodge.
Movement. We'll just put a question mark next to it. We'll see if any specific skills come out. We can give it a name then. Unnamed movement skill. Parry, dodge, movement, block. This seems like a good basis. If we can come up with those 4 abilities for defense, we can work in other things easily. You go.
Dodge lets you use precision to defend.
So does parry. Yeah, it allows you to go
reliant.
Yeah, it allows you to go offensive and not be useless, which is correct. And strength requires you to go into the defensive.
Strength would be maybe parry, but is also very precision. I don't know. Maybe dodge is strength, but like resolve would be block. Or the fortitude, whatever we called the physical equivalent.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, the physical one would be block for sure. And strength doesn't really have any, which makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. But those classes would then go into their health as well. The defensive one and take block and then block with their weapons or use a shield. Block doesn't require you to have a shield. It's a skill. It's how to block.
Yes, 100%. I'm just thinking about what block could look like at lower levels. Because like higher levels, it's obviously you negate the attack completely.
So let's see if we can do 5 levels of defense. Reduce, negate, half. Half is an easy one to remember. Could be under.
Yeah, but half isn't really anything above reduce. Like reduce has multiple values.
Yeah, I just put it down as a thought.
Negate is obviously high level.
Control?
What would control look like for dodge?
You get to choose where you end up, or you can end up right behind them.
Oh, I like that. So lower level dodge is just straight back.
Yeah.
Like you step back and move out of the way. But at, say, 3rd or 4th level, you could choose to be somewhere other than straight back.
Yeah, as long as you can come up with the creative way to do it. He's about to swing at you. I use my dodge skill to slide between his legs.
And there you go, you're behind him.
Yeah, and if you've got enough to be able to be allowed to be behind him and you can make the roll to be behind him, then you slid through his legs.
So dodge will be precision based.
Yep.
But it will... No, it would still have to be a precision
No, I think
roll.
dodge is strength. It feels strength.
What we just described feels precision to me.
Okay. I'm not against that.
But again, it does feel like it would also require a bunch of strength to be able to do like fancy dodges and shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're doing it with a lot of gear on. Nobody's going in naked.
Fuck, now I want to make a naked character that's just got like 5 strength and 5 dodge.
And
just like...
and with that, thinking and putting it under strength, it also really balances everything. So strength characters have their own sort of way to. No, I think it's too rogue, and rogue is too precision. It has to be precision. It changes too much build variability and the ability to create the. You need to be able to create the classic rogue archetype, and the classic rogue archetype is forced to go strength.
Which makes me think that parry should be strength.
And
I'm back to this again.
I'm starting to agree with you.
But now for different reasons. Purely because, like, if you have a strength character, your odds are you're going to be, like, stand in their face, be better than them at melee combat, and just beat them down.
Well, I guess dodge becomes movement at that point, like I said.
Yeah, I think the movement ability just gets nixed.
And this becomes fort. And then we've got appeal, which is its own thing, non-real combat physical stat. It's the only non-combat physical stat, so we need to come up with something for appeal too. And I want there to be a lot of mandatory dice rolling when talking to enforce certain results, so a player can guarantee certain things in their conversation with the GM. We'll get to that later.
Yes, 100%.
But
appeal's
this
kind of a weird spot.
Yeah, we'll get to appeal later. Yeah, threaten and intimidate are great kind of things that we will definitely talk about that I want to be mandatory, more built in. But this gives us the 3 physicals for defense and 1 skill under each of them as an example. And then if we can figure out a good way to do the 5 levels, which we were just doing up here, I think we're almost there. I think we've got a nice structure here.
I think we combine threaten and intimidate for appeal. And have it be at high level, like at 5 ranks. It just, like everything else, it nullifies their attack. They're just too scared, too intimidated, too love struck to actually follow through with the attack.
We'll talk about that later. That brings in a whole
no idea what that would be called.
Yeah, that brings in a whole new rat's nest of problems. we will deal with them as we deal with every problem. That's not an issue.
So I let's just jot down the note of, like, appeal defensive ability? I don't know.
There you go. That good?
Who the fuck knows? Yes, that is exactly what we need.
Okay.
So now so we've got stat associations with our defensive abilities, which is good. We needed that. Now we need to look at the 5 levels. And I think we've almost got it under the 5 levels of defense. Almost.
Yeah, I think we're almost there. Aid, I'm thinking just like a small benefit to your own defenses. It may not be the most creative use, but it's a very basic application of the skill.
So what would that look like? Like under parry, well, I'd imagine it would probably be the same under all of them. Like, you just get a small bonus to your roll.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. The first point you put in, you get you get it, so it is now factored into your rolls. You don't really get to do much with it because you're not very skilled at it.
But then when you get to rank 2, you would be able to reduce the opponent's roll.
And, well, okay, don't... We can automatically count +1, +2, +3, +4, +5 for the skill in the roll. That's a default kind of part of taking the skill.
Yes, we just get that.
Yeah. So this is going to be on top of that for everybody who's watching. So we already have +1, and then we're just kind of saying no additional benefit. There we go. Come on, brain. That would be the aid.
Well, it would just be like ability to parry.
Yeah.
Like that's what it would get you.
Yeah. Which is, I think, fair.
Which would allow
the ability to parry is pretty good.
Rank 1 of each defensive ability allows you to use that ability score to defend.
Yeah, that's no additional benefit.
But no additional benefit is not explicit. We should write out that it allows you to use that stat to defend. So like if you're
allows you to add the ability stat to
yes, allows you to add the ability stat to defend
value
roll.
Stat. That's a bad word.
So that works for all of them.
Yep.
That's nice and clean. If we look at then what level 2 would be, we're aiming for some sort of reduction of incoming damage.
Now, just to clarify verbally, allows you to add wording means you need to declare your parry, your dodge, or your block before it to add.
Yes.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're just rolling a d6 and praying.
Yeah. Which means you need to beat them in initiative. If they're faster than you, you may not have the chance to parry them. And we'll get to initiative. I have ideas. Oh, I've got ideas. That's going to be a couple streams.
Yeah, there's, oh man, that initial opening of combat is going to be rough. But also very exciting.
Yeah. So
level 2
reduce.
What does that mean?
Or is there a better thing between aiding and having?
Because when I read reduce, it would functionally be the stat plus the level of the ability to your roll. Because like you're rolling, let's take a look at parry. Parry, you're rolling strength. So you've got 2 levels in strength in order to get level 2 parry.
Let's also remember that you're opting not to attack, you're opting to parry on your turn here.
No, this is on your opposed roll. If you are attacked, these are all defensive abilities. You don't just go, oh, I'm just gonna stand here and wait to parry. No, that's suicide.
No. You okay. Yeah, We'll get to that later. I have ideas around that as well, but it's a deeper bag than I want to open at this moment.
I mean, we can break any stat we want with how we built this, but the way I'm looking at it is you would, because like you're rolling strength, you have 2 levels in strength, so you get a +2. The level 2 or the rank 2 of parry would give you an additional +2 to your roll in order to effectively reduce incoming damage by making sure that their delta is lower or your delta is higher. That's what reduce sort of intuits as me, or as for me.
Don't think I even followed what you were saying there, because I kind of, my own thought branched off part way of you saying it.
And then you were like, oh, this could be cool.
And no, it was thinking that it could take it off of the final, off of actual delta, so the value would come off of delta itself. But I don't like how it changes the roll results so much. It's too special of a rule.
Which is why I was thinking just apply it to your roll. And you would be able to do that, like every rank. You would get better and better at this. Although that might make too much of an advantage for defenders.
Yeah, it's going to build up too much.
Although defenders are down a die.
So, a quick glimpse into what I'm thinking on the initiative system is a backwards declaration. So the person who goes last declares what they're doing first. And then there's only one declaration 100%. For the whole round, right? And the person who wins gets to know what everyone else is doing before they make their attack. So the person at the end can't really be parried. They're too fast. If you have to declare your parry. So the slower people will be the I'm just going to bruiser attack, and the faster people will go more heavy into the defenses and try to reverse and be the soft artist, basically. If they want to go that way, or be so fast that they can try to, deke and dodge and hit and just be not there at that time. This allows you to go really strong with the parry and not break combat, because if they're declaring the parry, they're sacrificing their attack for the parry. So they're really focused on that one attack for the round, not every attack coming at them. And because it's replacing their attack, once these get offensive, they're not just broken. Because if it's just every opposed roll you can smack somebody, that's
no. So again, that's the difference here. A parry is not a riposte.
Yep.
A parry is just deflecting an attack. The riposte. Ooh, we could add perfect deflects. On a perfect deflect, you get the ability, you knock them off tempo and get the ability to initiate an attack. Well, Sekiro combat, nailed
it. In my mind, that's a control level parry.
Yeah.
So that's like parry 5, basically.
Yeah. 100%.
At which point, you're just going to knock them off balance and smack them with it over and over and over again. It's exactly what happens in this combat system. As long as you're fast enough. You need the speed. You need to be faster than them still, which fits.
Yeah. So
that fits, right? You have to be faster than them.
Yes, 100%. I completely agree. The thing that's sort of tug of warring in my mind right now is these. So we've got these set out as the first rank of them allows you to add the number of ranks you have in that skill to your defend roll.
Yep.
The final tier allows you to use your defensive ability offensively.
And that's pretty much on all of them. You want to end up in an offensive position with your dodge, you got to be damn good at dodging. But the things that you can do in combat at that point are really, really dumb on your declaration. You can use your defensive to, zip and slide and do all sorts of things to completely negate their attack and put yourself in a really good spot for the next round.
And with dodging, it may put you behind them. It may put you, above them. It may, you may gain great distance if you're using a ranged weapon. With fortitude, you could say just like crush through the attack.
What if we redo the 5 like this?
I think how would you deal damage on a dodge?
While you're dodging, you get a smack on them. If you're creative enough to describe it.
A regular smack that they can react to as a regular smack. So I think anything more than that would be too strong.
Well, you still have to make your roll. They're going to say, I'm going to try to do this, and you're going to say, I'm going to try to do this. It's what you're allowed to describe in your roll, right? So, like, if you're dodging them between the legs, maybe you try to elbow them in the groin while you go through.
Or, slash at their Achilles or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But they would still get their defensive roll on that.
Or at least, well, I see it as part of the defensive move, right? So if their attack misses and your defense wins, you've got the work done to pull off the maneuver, right? So the delta is going to be work. So we could use it the same way magic is used, where your work value is going to be how you describe the maneuver, what value level you need, and then if your delta doesn't meet the work, then you don't perform the maneuver. You just take no damage anymore, or you reduce the damage as appropriate.
You do the thing, but you don't get to deal your damage if you don't meet the work requirement.
Well, let's say, how do we want to do? Okay. Is the delta going... Yeah, the delta is the work in
either direction.
Yeah. I'm just thinking the magic system. The delta is the work of the opposed rolls in the magic system, so the delta is the work here. We need to have small numbers for work because the delta is never going to be huge in melee combat, and if it is, the person is going to get obliterated.
They should have won. Like they're just done. They've been bested at that point.
You picked the wrong fight. And we wanted that in the system. So yeah, I see a delta of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically,
and that can be tuned.
That can be tuned, but it seems like a decent starting point. So if you describe something with an offensive ability and all that, and you beat them by 5 on their attack, I think you deserve that hit.
And you would deal the delta.
Yeah. At least 5.
I like it. It makes it difficult enough to do, and also rewards being able to do a difficult thing and be creative in your response to incoming attacks.
Yeah. And it allows for Rubido's description of a ninja tank.
100%.
Which is terrifying.
I mean,
Decide
dodge tanks are
where
great
you end
until
up.
they aren't.
Yeah, and then there's probably going to be like a soak on the damage from armor, right? So whatever hit they did is also going to be negated by an armor value.
We haven't gone too far into that.
No, not yet. We don't have a lot of that figured out. We have to go into the numbers, and before we go into the numbers, we'll have to go into gearing.
Yeah.
But we need to have a combat structure first.
Yeah, I think gearing is still a ways off, but it'll be interesting. So on a parry at level 4, if you delta them by 4, then you would be able to parry and take a step. Sort of thing.
Or maybe even parry and cause them to take a step. I do that to people with punches.
I'm thinking about exactly how that works with a sword. How would we describe that in the game?
If somebody's thrusting at you, I try to sidestep it and pull him over in front of me so that his back is towards me.
Bladed weapon versus bladed weapon. Somebody slashes at you and you knock their weapon far enough to the side that they can't recover.
Yeah. Or you can make them stumble that way.
Yeah, make them stumble. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect for parry. For dodge, obviously, it's more about moving you than your opponent.
Yep.
For block,
there's lots of ways to block and put movement into your block that are super beneficial.
Yeah, I think block should be move you or move your opponent.
Yep.
I think that one being both makes a lot of sense.
Shields absolutely can be used both ways. And again, we're leaving most of this down to the creativity of the person and the understanding of combat to the GM. In my experience, most GMs have a pretty good fundamental understanding of melee combat, and this gives them the structure and power to create really cool fight scenes.
Yeah, 100%. So, and just as a way of balancing the movement abilities, sore arm.
Oh, yeah.
As a way of balancing the movement abilities, I think strength decides where your enemy ends up. Precision decides where you end up. Fort does both.
Fort just gives you a better control over the battlefield, period. Because you're a brick shit house with a shield. Come at me.
That's really hard to deal with.
Think of your favorite video game that has melee combat in it, and then think of the shield enemies in it.
And they're always a pain.
Yes.
So, and like we could do different wacky shit with appeal if we wanted to for that. Appeal could be so broken in melee combat.
Oh, fucking flee.
Yep. Or better yet, like take appeal a little bit more literally and have them follow you. You can just reposition it to be like, I'm going this way. And they're like, I'm coming too.
I mean, Flea literally does that. They charm you. You start attacking your own team.
Not necessarily, though. But like if you charmed somebody and pulled them with you back into your team's defensive line.
So we don't want any raw numbers in the skills, Rube. We want the base raw number to be simple and the description of the delta. Oh, I'm reading really old messages. Never mind.
You are.
Never mind.
Very old.
Yeah, that happens. That happens all the time. I'm so paranoid of missing stuff in chat that I just keep reading it.
And we're pretty into this whole designing a game thing.
Yeah.
So what does rank 3 look like? What did we have down for that? We had half?
Negate is where it is now.
Negate. So yeah, the ability to negate the attack makes sense at level 3.
Yep. Remove all effects from attack. Taking no damage. I guess when taking no damage doesn't need to be said because that's just part of the roll. That's
only if you delta them.
Yeah. So the delta 3 and a call it and then get the delta 3 roll lets you remove all the effects from said attack. So like example, they're swinging a flaming shield and you've got or flaming sword and you've got a shield that's made out of wood. You want to block it in such a way that you're not going to, maybe you want to move to the side and block it so it glances off the shield and comes down and doesn't touch the shield long enough to light you on fire.
I just thought of a really cool interaction that this system makes possible. So if you've got, rank 5 of parry,
for parry master.
You are the parryist. You are Matthew Perry himself. If you fail the Delta 5, you can still get any of the other deltas, which is really neat.
Yeah, you'll just fail that part of the declaration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I like it. I like it a lot.
Me too. If there's a lot of room for the GM to get to describe what actually happens and enough structure that the player has a guarantee of what they're going to get out of it.
And there's always some benefit to having higher ranks. Always.
Yep.
So then we're looking at...
Yeah. We just need that in between, that first little effect that you get.
Need that little tasty treat on rank 2.
Can't be too strong, but it's more than just getting the +1 or the +2. You get that Delta 2, you actually get quite a good defensive roll. What do you get to do?
Because we've effectively given you a +2 through rank 1 of any of these defensive abilities. So
I think it goes to the skill first, so it'd be a +1. There's a value in the skill, so it uses that in your roll. But a +1 is good.
Yes.
Now it's a +2 because we're at rank 2.
Doing math stuff.
Yeah.
So you've effectively got your additional +2 already, which is quite strong. And your what else can you do? You could the thing I keep coming back to is reducing their delta if they delta you. I also like how easy it is to describe the difference between opposed rolls as deltaing someone. Like that's really catchy.
I tried to dodge him, but he delted me.
And it only makes sense in the context of this rule set. The only thing I can think of is reducing their delta.
which I don't like.
Yeah, it's kind of antithetical to what we've set up. And taking away your opponent's ability to do something is anti-fun.
But if it allows you to... What if we do this?
That is an interesting idea.
I think if we move
Because most of what we've been
this
thinking about is
situational 1 to 2, at least we have more realm.
yeah, we have more creative space, which is good.
And I think that's a fine level 2 one, because it's so situational.
But for rank 3, I haven't fully considered this situation where you're being attacked, like you're fast and you're being attacked by more than one enemy. Would you then not be able to remove all effects from both attacks if you delta them with 2?
No. At this point, you can declare both of them. It's all up to your creativity. If you can come up with a situation where you can remove all effects from both attacks and they're both swinging at you with something flaming, and you roll and you get your delta, then you do what you declared.
But you wouldn't be able to do that at level 2.
Correct. You would only be able to do it to a single person swinging at you.
That seems anti-fun. Because like then if you're like, numbers would just mean that you win.
What do you mean? Oh yeah, having more people? Yeah. Well, I mean, if that is actually even taken into account in standard D&D, there's a major curve on numbers compared to level variance to party. As soon as the party starts getting outnumbered, you have to use really weak monsters.
But it just seems too restrictive and anti-fun to me. Like
I don't disagree. D&D literally uses the same rules for block, though. You can only block one target.
And I think that's anti-fun as well.
I don't disagree. It does play okay, but that doesn't mean we can't do better. But you can't just...
Especially with all of the creativity we've got at the high levels. Like, holy shit. We've got to be able to do better for 3.
What if at that level you can parry any number of attacks? You know, like dodge 1, or you look at it at block 1. You know, a bunch of people are shooting arrows at you. You're not that amazing with a shield. You're kind of just you can use one. You've just kind of learned. So you can focus on that one arrow and be like, motherfucker. But when there's 3 or 4 of them coming at you, it's just, and all you can do is keep it up in front of that one arrow, like, at least I can get this one. But once you've got some skill, you can kind of look at the angles and kind of change. And like, okay, if I'm here, you can't get me, and, you know, be able to move it, knock things away. At that point, you're starting to be able to use the skill to the point where you can apply it quickly enough to handle multiple assailants.
And it works for dodging and attacks, and it works for parrying and attacks.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot closer, for sure. Being
able to do it on any number of attacks instantly in the first level is too much.
I think restricted to number of ranks initially. So you could parry one attack at rank 1. You can parry 2 attacks at rank 2. At rank 3, anything that comes at you, you can attempt to parry it.
I think that's too much to remember for just an extra one at rank 2. I think rank 1, and then as many as you want is fine, and then there's no more extra rules.
Yeah, it makes more sense from a systems perspective. I'm just like, if we've got use n times as rank 3, then, well, I mean, rank 2 is pretty situational at best.
But it represents you getting a firm understanding of that ability. And at 3, it's a rapid application of the ability. And that definitely makes sense from a skill progress standpoint.
Yes.
There's also a lull at level 2 in Magic. Sense and read.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think you're right. I think level 2 is a little weak on both of these systems, but I think that's okay.
I think that's okay. I agree. You don't want them to get too carried away too quickly. Also, with that 1 point out of 5 being added, you've effectively doubled your skill.
You've doubled your skill, which doubles your bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, you get a third more, but you're starting to get all the super powerful, fun, declarative stuff on top of it, where you can just go ham with your defensive side.
Yeah, all your creativity gets to come out. Yeah, I think it's okay that rank 2 is a little weak because like you said, you're doubling your bonus,
and that is a situational huge benefit. Remove all effects. You know, like some guy with a claw or something that's punching you, and like you're gonna take no damage, but you might get bleeding. Now you can just avoid it.
You know, somebody shoots you with I don't know, acid arrow, something like that. You could block the initial damage, but then it would, cause a dot or something.
Mm-hmm. Whereas you can just
and you'd be able to completely
glance it off,
negate that.
Yeah. Oh, the offensive ability with the shield to bounce enemies' attacks into other enemies. Oh, yes. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've made defense what we wanted defense to be.
Defense is definitely fun. Still concerned about level 2. But I think if we play test it and it feels okay, then it's fine where it is.
Mm-hmm. I don't want it to feel like too big of a power spike either.
But at the same time, you do want that level of excitement, so there's some ideas to play around with there.
Yep.
Like going from rank 1 to rank 2, I would imagine is probably a pretty big deal in most situations.
Yeah.
Like going from being a novice to being like a green belt.
Yeah. That's, like I said, that's the point where you gain the ability to apply it quickly. That's like, So driving one, you've got a general feel, but you've still got to pay attention to everything. You're not going to be great at it. Driving two, you don't have to pay attention to everything. You can focus on the fine mechanics of it. Driving three, you don't even have to focus on the fine mechanics of it anymore. You can start doing stuff like sliding your car around corners and burnouts and that kind of thing.
And if you can't do burnouts, is it even worth it?
I've seen people that can't do burnouts.
That's sad.
I
That
taught them how
saddens
to
me.
do burnouts. I had a car that could do it. So do we want to take a look at... So skills, I'm thinking, do you want to have like a sword skill?
Well, going with how we were thinking about it before, strength is mostly focused around melee things. Precision is mostly focused around ranged things.
But would also have dagger.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, mostly.
Yeah,
Mostly focused around those things. Fortitude offensively. Focused around...
I've removed fort
blunt?
after I thought about it. No, strength would be blunt still.
Yeah.
Fort was just one of the 3 physical skills, and then I went, wait a second, fort's not an offensive skill. 2 physical offensive skills. You're looking at your strength and perception. So one way to do it is to have the hard-coded broad skills. Kind of like that idea. And then have an option for GMs to do tight skills underneath it, if they want to. Then how I usually implement this is your 2-hand skill takes the rank of your highest skill underneath it, and if you have to use that skill instead of your tight skill, you get half value.
Makes sense. You would understand the mechanics of doing the thing, but you wouldn't necessarily be super proficient with that specific thing.
Yep. It keeps it ranks of 5. And once we make the, melee combat skill grid, that applies to every weapon in those 5 ranks. It allows us to just go, here you go, GMs, what do you want? They can basically declare their setting and just organize their weapons under those major categories, and they're good to go.
It feels not as creative as our defensive abilities.
Well, the defensive ability creativity is in this 5 grid here, which we're then going to do for melee weapon, melee attack. This just creates that freedom to attack with anything and have different skills with different weapons and determine what you can do with that weapon. So maybe we should work on this 5 to get the creative part out of the way and then determine how to apply it to weapons.
Yes. I agree. There's some fuzziness in my head around how the creativity The creativity could really be stifled by having broad and tight skill groups.
How so?
Because, like, the say you are proficient with two-handed swords, that allows you to do wacky shit with any two-handed sword. Because I mean, at the end of the day, is one two-handed sword really all that different than another two-handed sword? Like one may be slightly heavier than the other, one may be slightly longer than the other, one, may be better at crushing armor. But at the end of the day, it's a two-handed sword. Or, it's a one-handed sword, or it's a mace, or,
Well, the whole point of the application of the broad group, tight group like that is because a lot of people don't like tight groups and want to be able to just grab any two-handed sword with it, at which point you just ignore everything underneath it, you apply your points to the broad group, and you use it as a skill group like any other.
Then what benefit does doing tight groups get you?
I, as a player, really like being able to specialize in my weapon. Have my weapon, and I like that detriment when I'm not using my proper weapon. It's just always how I've played.
But what does it do?
It represents the fine differences in that weapon, because when you're going to do something that's going to
sure, yeah, no, I get that,
be that top tier, it matters if it's a little bit heavier or a little bit longer, or
but like functionally, what does it do in our system? Because like if you take two-handed sword 5, you can already do all the wacky shit with any weapon.
Well, you wouldn't take two-handed. You wouldn't take two-handed sword 5. You would take Zweihander 5. And if I had to use a different two-handed sword than my Zweihander, I would have 3, unless I started putting points into learning how to use that sword as well.
As a side note, I'm glad that we didn't say it, but both agreed round up when halving.
Yeah, it's the only way it makes sense. Putting you down to 2 just is not right.
That's punishing, man. That's brutal.
Whereas 3, we talked about being a good understanding, where you don't have to really focus on the fine details and you can pull off more types of stuff. That's about where I think you should be if you have another two-handed sword that's just a little heavier and longer than what you're used to. But it's a lot to track, and a lot of people don't like that side, so organizing it this way says if you don't want to track all that, you can just use the two-handed sword.
And if your GM and players don't want to deal with the fine skill groupings, you can just use two-handed sword.
Yeah.
But then would we make a recommendation that the broad skill groups have increased point buy values?
No.
Because otherwise, well, no. Because if we think about Magic, you're only ever applying to the broad groups.
Yeah.
Having the tight grouping under physical combat does kind of break that model. Like it does make it an entirely separate rule set.
It penalizes it slightly, and that's why I like it as an optional, but I'd still like to include it as an optional, because that's just how I like skills, and I know a lot of people who really like to have that granular control over their skills.
And I'm one of them, for the record. But with the way that we've approached both defensive and magic abilities, I'm wondering if it makes sense for us to like bake that in at the systems level rather than an expansion level. Like, if you want additional detail, you can, or additional grittiness, you can add these rule sets to your campaign.
If we'll do do the broad grouping, we'll keep it simple, we'll get it out, we'll get it done, and if people end up really liking the system for some reason, we can do a nitty-gritties expansion. Good with that. I can nitty gritty
And I mean,
things to death.
I would say honestly, publish them both. Like one is your core rule set, and then the other is some additional rules, and we can sort of dig down into Magic a little bit more to make it a bit more specific. But as it is,
so let's focus on the 5 then.
Yeah. So looking at our degrees of freedom, you can attack without penalty. Yeah, that makes sense.
You can now use this weapon without having to go, I don't know how to use this. Yep.
What would the penalty be for using a weapon you are not familiar with?
I don't know yet, but there definitely is one. We agreed on that right away.
Maybe you don't get the equipment bonus if you don't have at least 1 rank in using that weapon type.
Yeah, I mean you're definitely going to gain no bonuses when swinging it. I guess the penalty is you're forced to use your strength rating rather than your strength or perception rating rather than your rating for that skill, which is half. Same way we would do broad to tight.
So to rephrase that and put it in the same sort of mindset as we used for the defensive abilities, you can apply the ranks of this ability to your roll as a bonus.
Sure. We can do it that way. And then the rules will take care of the penalty of trying to do something you don't know how to do.
Yeah, because then it's not so much removing a penalty, it's just you gain a bonus.
Yeah. Well, it does remove that penalty as well, but that penalty then, when we reword it the other way, is mentally applied to everything, which it should be.
Yes.
Did we even say?
Copy paste. Except attack instead of def.
Ability to the ATT roll. There we go.
Ability.
That's pretty strong. That's pretty big. Then the next one was removing effects. That doesn't help us at all.
No, I think we're going to need to work on the in-between ranks quite thoroughly.
Things you can do in melee combat. Cleave. But cleave's not going to apply to everything. Yeah, target.
You can inflict statuses. Like you could use your weapon in such a way that it causes them to bleed heavily, or blinds them by cutting their forehead.
Yeah, targeting their forehead.
What else could you do? You could.
It is 6, by the way, but we don't have to stop if you don't want
to. Let's. I do have some stuff to do, so let's see how close we can get to getting the melee attack stuff filled out. And if we can't get that, then we'll do that next time.
Yeah.
Things you can do in melee combat. You can. I want the ability to use the weapon in creative ways, like bashing somebody with the pommel on a sword rather than slashing them. From 1.
Use
like, I think
non-standard weapon. Non-standard parts of the weapon. I think that's pommel, flat blade. I definitely like that idea being in there. Creates more flexibility with it.
And I think that needs to be very early.
Like 2?
Like maybe 2.
I agree.
Or just from the get-go.
You know how to attack. Well, no, the get-go is learning how to use the sharp bits. of the weapon.
You can use the pointy bits. Now you can use the other bits.
Exactly. Because, I mean, that's, how do I use a sword? Stick them with the pointy bits. Okay, that's what I've been taught. I'm going to stick them with the pointy bits. Now, all of a sudden, you're like, okay, I'm used to using this weapon. Hey, wait a minute. I can't really hit him with the pointy bits, but that part still hurts. Okay, we've learned how to use our weapon. That will come in useful for when somebody, parries you and puts your sword downwards. Okay, well, I lift up and hit him in the chin with my pommel. I'm not useless with this sword, buddy.
Yeah.
Now combat's turning into what I wanted it to be in melee combat.
That's a really cool interaction. Like the interaction between parry and melee attack.
Yep.
Being able to recover from being parried with like a pommel strike or something, that's dope.
Because each combat round will be a quick state change, right? So now you're in the I've been parried state, and you have to decide what you want to do with your next bit around. There you go. You got controlled. You got moved. You're in a shit spot. Can you use your weapon well enough to get out of this shit spot? Let's find out. Yes.
So let's take a look at what our edge case is for melee attack. What does a level 5 melee attack look like?
What can you do? You're a master of your weapon. What can you do?
I would say
anything you can describe.
Basically. But how do we integrate that into the systems, right? Like that's the tricky part. So you're a master of your weapon, you're engaging in combat. You are choosing to be offensive with your round, which means you can probably... Well, if you're not a master, you can definitely only attack one thing. If you are a master, perhaps this is where cleave comes in, and if there's another target within range of your first target, you can cleave to the second on the same attack.
I don't even mind that at 4. You can continue your attack on to the next target if you kill the target with the hit and you meet your delta. So you have to do a delta of at least 4.
Even if you just delta it at 4, you'd be able to carry on to your next target. Like, you delta them with 4, you slash, across their body or whatever, and you just keep swinging and you hit the other guy.
Yeah, I like that idea. Attack multiple targets in a swing, period. That applies to every weapon. You don't have to kill them. There are ways you can do it with every weapon.
Then 5 perhaps would be causing status effects, like the ability to blind, the ability to maim, the ability to just basically disable your opponent.
That's basically target then. Which I'm cool with being at 5. Like, that's like you can call whatever you want to do, basically.
Yeah.
Are these deltas additive? So if you wanted to slash 3 people in the eyes that are all standing beside each other, it would become a delta 9 required? Or is it a delta 5
that'd
required?
Be awesome.
Or is it a delta 5 required where if you hit delta 4, you hit them all, and if you hit delta 5, you blind them all?
I think it would be additive. Like, it makes sense to me that if you want to do something as powerful as, like, taking a foot from 2 enemies, or taking a foot from 3 enemies, that's going to be hard.
I agree. I agree. And then this is where we're going to get into when you can really outpower the enemy.
Which I think deals with the waves of enemies thing better, like fighting against large groups.
Yeah, and then we'll have to do damage comes from the weapon, not the bonus. This is all about what the combat declares and how hard their hit is based on what they're hit with.
Yeah, and the damage not only comes from, ranking up in that that weapon type, but also from whatever weapon you're using. So if you have, a rank 3's Y-hander, you get an additional +3.
Yeah, and I think into the weapon's damage, it'll be a rank thing, sort of like Shadowrun's damage is done. Do you remember how Shadowrun did damage?
No.
So like the club will do strength times 2 damage. Strength times 2 stun damage, kind of idea. Is how Shadowrun would say it.
So it'd be a multiplier on your skill with that weapon.
Or maybe an addition of, maybe, so if it might do, like a short sword might do skill damage.
Intriguing. Let's finish this off because I need to take the puppy and then I've got stuff to do.
Yep. Just needed to clarify that as we're going because it applies to what we're thinking.
Yes, I do like that. I do like that quite a bit. Then when we're looking at rank 3, which is kind of our middle of the road, you are mechanically sufficient.
Yeah. Also thinking this is the level that a tight group to narrow group would be bumped down to. So you want it to be competent, but not crazy. You're not doing multiple...
Gap closers, movement attacks.
Yeah, we do need movement, don't we?
The ability to attack and step away, the ability to step forward and attack.
And move. At the same time. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So at lower level skills, you'd have to move in and sort of position yourself and station yourself and get ready for the encounter, the melee encounter. So that all makes sense. You're learning, you're training, you're skilling up. And once you get to 3, you can just kind of charge into battle swinging and just kind of roll with the punches.
1 and 2, like, you could probably win a fight in a dojo.
Yep.
But that's very different than applying it in an actual combat situation.
Which falls very much in line with our progression of defense, where you can defend against the person that you're facing, dojo type situation, 1-on-1, and then at 3 you can actually deal with a street situation where you've got multiple people coming at you that aren't just gonna dummy you because you thought you were tough shit. Man, this applies really well to real life. I quite like it. I really like where melee attacks at. I really like where defense is at. I think we've opened it up to really creative applications while keeping it very much in line with our magic system.
Next week, we will need to do a little bit more work on ranged combat, but I think we're in a good state to stop for now.
Yeah, I agree. Mid-ranged is going to be really easy to do. We already threw out a dozen good ideas before we did the hard stuff, and now that the hard stuff is done, it's just going to come together.
We got this.
Cool. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that terribly geeky rambling. That was some geeky-ass ramblings. It will be on YouTube tomorrow. Tomorrow is when I usually post them. So yes, tomorrow this will be up. 24 hours and a few minutes from now, because Twitch owns this for the next 24 hours.
It's literally part of the contract.
Yep, it's part of the contract, and it's totally fair. They do a lot to give us this service to use. Hey, Mole, you caught us right at the end, but we'll probably be back. I think we're going to do some Battlefield on the however limited trial thing until I can get my copies.
The 10 free hours.
10 free hours. That'll last us a couple days.
Yeah.
And I'm once it's actually released, I can get copies for $20 and mail it to you. So
yeah,
we'll do it that way. Actually, I might be able to just ship it right to your house when I purchase it. So,
or buy it and pop the key out of it. Just send me a photo.
Oh, is it just a key in there?
I would be very surprised if there was any physical media on any PC sale.
He didn't hate it. He just wouldn't ever pick it up and play it by himself.
I'm not going to pay for it. Not more than, a couple tens of dollars.
Rage kept on raging the last time you all played Battlefield. There was some issues in the beta.
And some of them may have been resolved. I still really do want to try Hazard Zone.
Yep.
Like it's a much more accessible way for Deus and I, or anybody who is a differing skill level, somebody who doesn't want to jump into something that's super fucking hardcore like Tarkov,
which I do want to jump into.
Have some fun.
Just there's sharks in those waters.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
We'll probably stream. We'll probably stream if we do it. I'm not going to be like sharp or anything because my aiming arm is sore as shit.
It's true.
But I'm feeling physically mostly better, and the talking for 2 hours, which we did a lot of talking in that 2 hours, didn't wreak too much havoc on my throat.
We made some good progress.
We did.
We did.
I'm really, really happy. I think we just came up with something I've never had before, which I'm really excited to get to try.
Yeah, it solves a lot of my issues with like D20 melee combat as well. Like there's basically no interaction on the defense side, and there's not a ton of interaction on the attack side either. So we've managed to make it a lot more interactive, which I like.
I look forward to the playtests. I think some people are going to be surprised at how creative some of it can get. And I'm just going to throw shit at you until I kill you and see how it goes. Yeah.
And I'm sure there will be quite a few instances of, oh, fuck, I didn't think of that. which is good. You want that.
Would you like
the players involved?
Would you like to help in the playtest, Mole? There's minor commitments to actually being here for the playtest panels, but we will need somebody to play different areas of the game. We need mages, we need many different types of mages, we need melee, we need ranged, we need defensive focus, we need all sorts of different specializations. Yeah, we'll definitely get you in here. We'll do some pen and paper with you. I'll be the GM for those sessions, for the testing of it. So maybe I'll even have my own character to try to cover some more areas that I want to try to cover.
Yeah, we need a large amount of characters in the game to try and cover all of the various edge cases, because there's a lot of them.
Well, it's not going to be done anytime soon. There's a ton of work to do. You've got some time, don't worry.
I think like March.
That's ambitious, but yeah. We're not going to stop
for a basic playtest. I think March is reasonable.
Yeah, we work at a pretty good pace. I think we can get it. So I'm going to go figure out my dinner before Pookie gets home and has no dinner. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Squeeze in and around your Lost Ark life. Yeah, I want to try that. Because it's free. It looks interesting. So I'm willing to try anything that's free and looks interesting. In the beta, not bad. I'm down for a new PoE-ish style of game that's free that we can all play together. Bit grindy / slow burn, but after 50, the end game was great. Was equals is.
I have a very cute puppy reminding me that he is both hungry and needs to pee.
Okay, so until later, I'm Deus.
And I'm Rage.
May all your shots be headshots.